Yes, ma'am. That is correct. I'll do that, and I'll do like a meal. So I'll have the sweet. Actually, not. Nah, sorry. Just the
Kids
just the
meal.
sandwich. The number 5 sandwich, please. Yep, and I'll do the 4 for 4 with a double stack as the thing. Sweet tea, please. Oh, I like some sauce. I'll do honey mustard, please. No, that'd be it. I appreciate you. You know I like the spice. I'm a spicy man. Bro, I'm telling you, the way to do it is you got to get the burger just by itself because they kill you in the upcharge on the meal. So what I do is I get a 4 for 4. So I have the burger, the fries, and the fucking chicken nuggets and a drink. And then I get a burger on top of that. So like I got 2 burgers, the chicken and the fries, and then the drink. And I'm like loaded up. We're good to go.
Wendy's economics with Regan.
It is Wendy's 101. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for attending the NFC West podcast. It is your boy, Regan. Today, I have Ace with me, Mr. A-Game. Ace, how are you doing?
Aloha. How you doing?
Doing good. Doing real good. And we got Big Sauce. Busy, what's up?
Ratchet Regan, we feeling good, man. How about you?
I am doing good, man. I got my Wendy's almost. Getting ready to go. Getting that big jalapeno burger thing. Gonna see how that is. And
good business.
I don't know. What is Pride? Is he Petty Pride?
Petty.
Is that his new thing?
Petty Pride.
He is quite petty. That is true. His like every single word he says in main chat is dripping with sarcasm, and it is the best thing I like about the XCFL. So especially how he talks to Brian. You know, you can't script this.
Yeah, I don't know how I got assigned Brian. It'll be a mystery for the XCFL to figure out, but I got assigned Brian, my little boy toy there. So, hi, Brian. Yeah, the Panthers. Their strengths here. Right off the bat, the speed is the strength for this team. At the wide receiver position, the cornerback position, and surprisingly at the defensive end position. Top 3 wide receivers are, 93, 94, 95, and that's DJ Moore, Richie Anderson, and what's his name, Curtis Samuel. So that's a trio that's nasty right off the start for Teddy Bridgewater, who I'll go over a little bit later because he'll be part of the weakness part. Cornerbacks, Dante Jackson heads this group with his 96 speed. Coverages are okay, but if this game is going to be like anything else that we've seen before, speed's going to kill. So his 96, 92, 93, 92 are his top 4 guys at the cornerback position for speed. And to top it off, I mentioned the defensive end position. Brian Burns, the difference maker that we saw Brian build up last year, and who he eventually moved later on. But Brian Burns comes in at 88 speed. And then I think his rookie, Matos, comes in at, 84, I believe. So,
yep, that's right.
Man, right off the bat, guys. Speed is the name of the game for this team. So, we covered the division. I think when we covered the NFC North, where speed was, speed was, there was a void at speed. So now we come to a team where it's just dripping with speed. So, you guys think that speed's going to kill this cycle?
I don't know if speed is what he's dripping with. Definitely dripping with cheese. If that was what you meant to say, which rhymes with speed, ironically. But yes, I would agree. It is dripping.
Obviously, Regan is not majoring in poetry because I don't know how speed rhymes with cheese, but there's plenty of speed on the Carolina Panthers, that's for sure.
Wordplay. You can make it work.
I rhyme about as well as a Detroit rapper, so that's kind of about the same level of cognizance I have with the English language as well. I don't know many words. I know about the same amount as your average Detroit rapper, like I said.
If you're an artist from Detroit, I would call you Kid Rock.
Or Dead. Dead would be another one. Life is not
all right.
easy. In good old
Anyways, back to
Shout
the
out to
Panthers. Go ahead, Brian.
Let's get back to the Panthers. So another strength of theirs is that defensive line. Already covered the two guys, Burns and Matos, but the rookie Derek Brown and K'Wan Short, that is a quad there that is going to be fearsome. And I think Short is 31, so Brian is going to have to find a replacement for him. But this is a grouping that's going to be around, that should be around for a while. This is a grouping that should help the shortcomings, and I'm going to go into the linebacking core in a second. The shortcomings at the second level with the linebacking core, and then what the secondary lacks in coverage, which leads into linebacking core. This is the cycle with no Luke Kuechly. In his, I guess, left in his wake is just Shaq Thompson. So this linebacking core it's void of talent now with Luke on, and I don't know how he's going to have to do something. He may have to pull a trade or maybe address it in the draft. But if you can get past those first four in the running game, you can wreak some havoc in the second and third level. And then
he wanted Isaiah Simmons so bad, and you just happen to have him. What's the probability or the chance that he actually can pull a trade off?
He's already eliminated himself from any trades dealing with the Arizona Cardinals.
Wow.
He's not pursuing Kyler Murray, so I can safe to assume that Isaiah Simmons will be off the block for him. So he may have to just maybe go to free agency with Darren Lee, or just suck it up and go with Whitehead. And who else does he have here? Whitehead and Jermaine Carter. So it's not pretty. That second level is not pretty. So if you're gonna attack that team, there's a spot there. Another weakness on this team is Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy golf gloves with his 84th throwing power. Could you guys find a way to be successful with a guy with 84th throwing power?
I'm having a tough time figuring out how to use Goff's 89.
Brian might be kind of resorting more to his he does have CMC, so he might be using his Madden 18 or Madden 19 skills, where he'd kind of just throw those wheel screens, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, they got speed for days at receiver, but if you don't have a quarterback that can get it there, it's kind of pointless, isn't it?
Yeah. It's hard to take advantage of the speed when you're probably restricting yourself to the intermediate routes, 15 to 20 yards max.
So what quarterback options are available? Like, where do you go in his case?
I'll hit that when we go into the long-term portion of this team, but I'm going to hit on another weakness for this team is the cap space. Is that I use only at 11 million lightly, but it is at 11 million right now. And if he is going to make a big move for a quarterback, he may have to, he won't necessarily, may not have the room to accommodate the names that we've thrown out there, the Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if he wants, maybe Brissett, Wentz too. These can be high contract guys that he frankly could not accommodate with this cap space. So the success is going to come down to whether he can properly utilize Teddy Bridgewater, or if he goes out and I'm going to go into the potential long-term move is we've thrown the name Jacob Eason out there, and that's another option that he could pursue, and it's a cheaper option that his cap could absorb. So in long term, quarterback is going to be a problem, and then he has to focus on developing this defensive line. Just like I said, this defensive line is going to be around for a while. Whether he finds a replacement for K'Wan Short, it's going to happen. That's going to happen soon, and then he could potentially put up one of those 3 wide receivers in a trade. I know people are going to covet speed, so either Anderson, Samuel, or Moore, he could get something good in return for one of those guys. So Brian's in in a decent spot, but he'll have some work to do. But this is his team. There's no other guys. I mean, if you're gonna have a project like this, you want a guy who's passionate about his team, and Brian is. I know Nick's PayPal account says that too. So, but yeah, and I didn't touch on CMC because it's obvious he's gold cleat 99 guy, so there's no reason to even cover him. So, but yeah, those are the Carolina Panthers. So good luck, Brian. Have fun, NFC South.
Yeah, interestingly enough, you're talking about him getting cap space to make any type of move of any type of sort. Really, at the wide receiver position, he doesn't have a player that he can move and get significant cap space, except for Roberts, which Roberts is just your average receiver. I don't really see anybody paying to pick him up, and I would actually expect Brian to go ahead and cut him just to get that cap space. But he can move Russell Okung, 76 overall, 31 years of age, 1 year left on his deal, and moving him along brings in $13 million of cap room to be able to maneuver. So he could go out and get a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers if he's willing to move Russell Okung, who is a starting left tackle, but Greg Little is only 7 overall points behind him, so there's not a huge drop off between the two.
And Little's young, so he was their second round pick. He was a higher draft pick for them, so he could invest. Definitely just slot Little in there and just start developing him, ASAP.
Yeah, Little's only 22, so
yeah, there you go. There's your move there. Good job, Biz.
Yeah, Brian, you're welcome.
Well, Biz, you took a look at the Saints, who's being run by Prince. So why don't you tell us what you thought of the Saints?
Oh yeah, man, I think this Saints roster it's built for now. It's built to win now, and it's set for the future. So let me explain what I'm talking about. Right? They have all of their draft picks, so they're not sitting in a hole with draft picks going towards the future like we've seen with some of the teams. They already have $30 million in salary cap space. At the end of this first season, they only have 4 what I would consider must signs on their roster. One in which I'm going to count Jameis Winston inside of that must sign, and I'll explain a little bit more why I feel that way in just a moment here. But on offense, they're really set, right? They got a star at quarterback, Drew Brees, star at halfback, star at wide receiver. They've got a very solid tight end in Jared Cook. And the O-line, I personally believe the O-line is one of the best in the game. They have elite tackles on the edge, and they have a very solid interior that are young. There's really no reason why that offensive line group shouldn't stay together for 4-5 years. I think the oldest I want to say is 29, and
correct.
He's 96 overall, so he really should be able to last hanging out in the 90s for a while. So he should feel comfortable with that group. And what's so important about that is he doesn't have to waste high draft picks to fill in at any point in time along the offensive line. And just as important with that is he doesn't have to reach to get a quarterback if he doesn't want to. So, we expect Drew Brees to retire after the first 2 seasons. Jameis Winston's contract is up, but if he signs Jameis Winston, which he should, just re-sign him, he doesn't have to reach for a quarterback. So if he finds one that he likes at a good spot, go ahead and take him. But if not, Jameis Winston is a very serviceable quarterback. We discussed it last time with Matthew Stafford, that we felt like he had some accuracies that could really be beneficial. He could still be a decent Madden quarterback. Jameis Winston's not too far behind him in all important throwing accuracies. Jameis has 90 throw power. I think he has 82 short or 82 deep. He's in the mid to low 80s in all of his accuracies, and he's mobile. So he's really set at the quarterback position where obviously he's going to take one at some point, but he doesn't have to force it in the first 2 drafts. So that should set him up to be able to take the best available players to go ahead and complement the rest of his team, which he's going to need to draft some linebackers. And we've all seen these little kind of the preview drafts. People have been, kind of simming through a season and showing us what they're looking like. Being able to focus in on the linebackers, which is what he needs, is going to really boost that talent there. Because there's the talent in these drafts, I believe, has been unreal for the linebacker positions. So for his weakness is linebackers, and he's going to be able to load up on that in the draft because he doesn't have to force it anywhere else on the field, right? His weakness is he needs a second corner. I think he's going to work out a trade. If he's smart, he's already talking to Nick, getting something squared away because Nick's trying to throw corners in the garbage. So he should be able to find one there and then draft a linebacker. And I think his roster is set. That's it for the Saints.
Do you think that we've been talking about throw power a lot, and Drew Brees only has an 83. So you got you got Winston at 90 and you got Drew Brees at 83. So are you going throw power? Do you prefer the accuracies of Drew Brees with the lesser throw power, or would you rather have the arm of Winston and have a little bit of less accuracy?
If it's me on the controller, I'm rolling with Brees. Something may change that as we go through, but I would roll with Brees and allow that accuracy to really hammer home.
Some great points. Great points. I like it.
I never considered Jameis Winston as a viable option. I actually completely forgot about him. So that's a great point, bringing him up, and with this that gives the Saints a really good. That sets them up really well, having a guy like Winston, and that's a good point. And if he wants to take advantage of a league that's going to be quarterback hungry, I mean, he could name his price for a guy like Winston in this league.
We'll bounce over to the Bucks, Tampa Bay Bucks, and let Regan finish his dinner here, and then he'll be able to cover the Falcons once he's finished with his dinner. But I'm covering the Bucks. We got J-Mo there in Tampa Bay this year, and okay. So we got J-Mo with the Bucks, and talk about busy talking about the Saints are ready to win now. I think these Bucks might be the biggest, best win now team in the league right now. They're just loaded across the board. You got Brady and Gronk, of course. You got Evans, Godwin, and the infamous Scotty Miller. One of my favorite players, Ronald Jones at running back, is just a beast in his attributes. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you got Vita Vea, who he'll be able to use with the new defensive line moves. You got Devin White at linebacker. You got Murphy Bunting at cornerback. So you got players up and down across the board. These guys are going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I think J-Mo proved that he could win a bunch of games. It'll be interesting to see how he competes with Brian and if he can compete for the division. But I put him up there in that same tier as Brian. I think that J-Mo's a solid playoff contender every season, and I'm just waiting for him to get to the Super Bowl and do something with it. As far as weaknesses on the team, I think that Murphy Bunting needs another cornerback to help him out back from the secondary. And you could probably pick up another linebacker. I don't know that Shaquille Barrett is what he used to be, but there's definitely some options here. If we saw J-Mo able to use a big slow receiver in Cam Baldwin. He wasn't a snail, but he wasn't the fastest receiver out there. But he just figured out a way to use that big body. And so we'll see if that's the route he goes, or if he wants to try to develop a Scotty Miller. Either way, I feel like there's a trade there. You got Evans, Godwin, Miller. You're not going to use all three of those efficiently. So I feel like Miller, after the year or the cycle that he had last, could get you a ton in the trade market. The other thing I think that is just a trade waiting to happen is Antoine Winfield. And Rob has already made known how much he loves Antoine Winfield. And so I think that's just a trade waiting to happen. J-Mo could probably take advantage of him. He probably won't, but that's Rob is just licking his chops, waiting for that trade market to open so that he could go get Antoine Winfield, because he's got a giant man crush on this guy. So I feel like at some point we'll see that happen.
Yeah, I'm just so within the league, we're still holding the first rounders can't trade for the first 2 years, second rounders can't trade for the first year. And with Antoine Winfield being drafted in the second round, that might give Rob a little bit of time to cool on the guy, so he doesn't overpay for him. I wonder if that'll be the case, how that plays out.
I don't feel like Rob is the kind of guy that cools on someone. I think it just kind of festers and gets hotter and hotter and just kind of boils over eventually.
Yeah, that Bills that Bills safety tandem is one of the best in the league, and this will just buy him more time to move either Hyde or Poyer, because he's going to get Winfield, and now he's going to have some excess there to in either Hyde or Poyer.
Yeah, that's actually a great point I didn't think about. Maybe Rob doesn't need him, but I got a feeling that Rob is going to go after what he wants instead of what he needs, just so he can make sure he's having fun.
Yeah,
but of course he might, based on what we were talking about before, he might be in the middle of a playoff run and not be thinking about it. So I guess we'll see what happens.
And it bears mentioning that the youth on this Buccaneers defense is insane. Devin White, 22. You've got young, the outside linebackers, and, the linebacker in core, like you said, is a little bit old. You got Levante David, 30 years old. Shaq Barrett is 27, but he's still got some good years left in him. But Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy Bunting. Bunting starts out at star, and I believe Davis also starts out. Oh, he starts at a normal. But, like you said, Winfield is young. To me, it's just... And then Jordan Whitehead isn't the fastest. He might be kind of a sub-linebacker type, but you've got a lot of versatility in the secondary and youth, which is going to be so critical when you're trying to build the starting core that's going to get you through the entirety of the cycle.
Yeah, and you bring up Davis. Davis's coverages are better than Bunting. I didn't realize that until I just looked at it.
Yeah, it's the athleticism. That's the biggest thing that's going to be different.
Yeah.
You got at the end of the day, 2 to 3, man coverage and zone coverage points really isn't anything compared to 4 speed points and then 2 acceleration, as well as 6 agility. That's a huge difference. I think that Davis is probably better slated at safety, where, he's got the 75 zone, he's got good tackle and power. Comparatively for a corner, good strength as well. So, he's kind of somebody that he's a bigger body, 6 foot tall, 200 pounds. You might want to play him more up top with that speed being kind of a liability.
I'll take him in a second as a cornerback too.
Maybe there's a trade brewing there.
Yeah, I don't mind those slower corners.
Look at Pride throwing out them little hints.
And J-Mo knows I don't mind those slower corners, so.
That is true. Pride is one of the few people that has really succeeded with garbage corners. Like Jack always says corner is the most important, and then you have the exact opposite in Pride, who's like, couldn't care less. It is. I remember my first game against you. You had like 87 speed, 88 speed corners.
Yeah. And
garbage
Dolphins team I took over.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Dolphins corners were terrible, and that was a year where speed was insanely good. Because our speed threshold was like 30 or something. So, it was. You definitely have proven that you can survive with that. But
the alternative to that is J-Mo with his Colts last cycle had Sheard and Harding, who smothered receivers. It was so frustrating to play those guys. to the point where I just stopped even. I put my receivers on the outside and stopped thinking about them because the Sheard and Harding would run my routes better than my receivers did. It was so frustrating. So it'll be interesting to see. That's the one thing where I think he's going to have a tough time is transitioning from the guys that he just recently had to this group of guys who is not near as talented as those Colts DBs were. So I think he'll be looking to make an addition to Murphy Bunting. Maybe he tries to run with Davis. I'm not sure what JMO's thinking, but it probably depends on how many Coors Lights he's had recently. But
that's true. How strong is the slur?
Yeah, but I think we're gonna see JMO continue to have the success that he had in this last cycle, and I really hope JMO is one of my favorite guys. I really hope he can make a deep playoff run and show us something with these Bucs early on.
This is kind of funny to me. This is like an all-star team. This Bucs team is like an all-star team from 2010. Like you've got Tom Brady,
it's so
you got
true.
Sean McCoy. I mean, it is of course, Gronk. I mean, it's hilarious that all these guys are basically in a retirement home now, but they're still playing football. I mean, you have another one is Ndamukong Suh. I mean, Sue is sitting there still. You got, let me see, Pierre Paul is playing outside linebacker somehow. I mean, outside. This man is older than Father Time. I mean, like,
and has 7 fingers.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like 6.5 on a good day, but
yeah,
you got like Levante David. I mean, he's like 30 years old. I mean, all these guys are players, but then you have like super young guys too. It's like you either have, the 2010 Pro Bowl, or you have,
they're kids,
basically rookies. Yeah, kids, exactly. Yeah, for real. Yeah,
those guys. It's like the father and son team.
It is. It really is. So I mean, it's going to be cool to see what JMO does with his roster. I feel like you got a lot of good tradable pieces. Good depth. Obviously, you have Tom Brady, who's, what do you do with him year one? And past that, I think it's a really cool, great job, Ace. I got to commend you for your very thorough review of this team.
Well, thanks. Let's see how you did with Coach Guac, formerly known as Avocado Sauced, who will be covering the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh yeah, Coach Guac, man. I love Guac. So, honestly, this team has a lot of my former players on it. At some point, I have had almost every single one of these guys. So it's kind of personal to me. I love these guys. Love a lot of these players. The Falcons, to me, is one of the most iconic teams in the XCFL. I think all the players that have, in my opinion, in my experience too. Like, for example, I've had Julio in a couple different franchises. Love Julio. 31 years old, 96 overall. This man does not regress until like 3-4 years out. I mean, he'll still be good. And I think other than the massive penalty, which is god awful for almost all of these players. Matt Ryan has a $70 million penalty. He's 35. I mean, the biggest thing that's wrong with this roster right off the bat is the cap space, but we'll go into that in a little bit later. The biggest thing is just going to assess it from a talent perspective first. We got Julio. Obviously you want your stud, number one receiver. You got the Grady Jarrett, so you got the defensive tackle here. That's our kind of the stronger force there on that interior D line. Kind of keeps. I think they have. I've always really liked the Falcons roster just because they have talent at every level, and I feel like it's spaced out pretty nicely. They've got one key player at every position, position group, but past that it's a little sketchy. So, for example, you got Grady Jarrett on the first level at the D tackle. Middle linebacker, you got Deion Jones, and then at the safety, you got Keanu Neal. So you also have Ricardo Allen, who's getting up in age, probably a good trade piece to go ahead and send away to somebody. He's not too bad in penalty. And, of course, you have the infamous Tack McKinley, the legend from 2019 and Madden 19, where he just tore up the league with the Falcons before getting traded, also very infamously, to the Giants with our good friend, Mr. Michael Chadwick, and he laid a fat goose egg for about 3 to 4 seasons before, I think, riding off into the sunset. I never heard of him again. Once he went to New York, I'm pretty sure he just died. Like he was like one of those football players that like died in a car wreck, had everything going for him, and just disappeared. So kind of sad.
You see him.
Sad story.
You kind of see him show up on a roster or on a in free agency, and you're like, that guy is still alive. Okay.
Yeah, you're surprised. It's kind of like the guy in the class that you had in high school that you just were just one of those people you knew was going to be dead or in jail by the age of 25, and you're going on 26, 27, and you look back and you're like, wait a second, he's not dead. That's kind of surprising.
Are you that guy, Regan?
I am that guy, yes. In my class, absolutely. That was my superlative, most likely to be dead. So by age 25.
That might be the most awkward comment ever.
Thank you. Yes, it was actually due to the Wendy's, but that's a side story. But yeah, I mean, I really like the roster, other than the fact that it's kind of a weird tweener roster where everybody is like 24 to 25 and they're decent for a few years, but past that, you're going to need to rebuild. And we are, like Busy said, I love it. We go long term. Here in the XCFL, it's 10 seasons at minimum per cycle. Marlon Davidson is a nice upgrade here. We're going to look at his. He is a hidden dev. I don't know exactly. I'm going to go ahead and peek as to what his dev trait is. Didn't have that written down.
As you're talking about rebuilding, okay. As you're talking about rebuilding, I mean, I think we all appreciate a little avocado sauced guac, but this man has had a tough time since he came in the league, and he's been, near the top of the draft. So I think we could kind of expect that as he starts out this cycle, that he's going to have a couple top 5 picks in my prediction.
That is very possible. I think that he's in not the softest division, but also not the strongest. We're kind of right at dead middle right now. I think this is our 4th division we've covered. So we're kind of right on the bottom tier of the middle two. So, I mean, he's got pieces that he can develop. And I think that on the bright side of this roster, those pieces are kind of going to develop themselves through the training. As long as he has gold training, he'll probably have Calvin Ridley up near 90 by the end of his career. Same with Connie O'Neill and Deion Jones. So he should have some nice pieces here. Question is for how long. And Guac, I love the guy, but I'm not sure he knows how to manage a roster and manage ages and manage those contracts, because whenever they start getting at this age, as 25 years old, that's tough, because you got to decide, all right, are we looking at a 5-year deal? We're going to pop him right out at 30. Is he 6-year deal, 31? I mean, you got to start thinking about regression and things like that. So it's a very, I look at this. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say he's really going to need your help here. Or brackets help or something, because this roster is set to self-destruct.
It is. It's a time bomb.
When you look at their salaries, they have 31 million or almost 32 million in cap space now, but they have players that are locked up long term. Like Jarrett, right? Jarrett contract goes from 12 to 20 million from this season to next season. That's 8 million right there gone. Matt Ryan's goes from 19 to 40. That's 21 million right there. We're at 30 million just from those 2 player contracts. Then you have something similar that happens for Dante Fowler Jr., right? His jumps up 12 million. So this Falcons roster, they're going to have just this massive explosion of salary cap. They're not going to be able to re-sign anybody. It's all going to be gone from players that they already have on their roster.
Definitely.
And they have some expiring contracts they have to deal with, particularly speaking with Keanu Neal, right? What do you do with that guy? He's coming due, and you don't have money to spend on him.
Neal, Ridley in a couple seasons. Yeah, I think you hit it right on that. I think that this is a very delicate roster. I like to say to me, this roster is potentially one of the best, because at every single level, this is what I look for in a roster. I want to see talent at every position. Where a D-line, you have somebody that can lead that group. And linebacker, you have somebody that can lead that group. And at safety or corner, corner, that's a separate debate. I like to have balanced corners. So like if I have a couple 80 overall corners, I'll look at that as about 190 safety. That's just me personally, but essentially you want to have balance at all three levels on defense. Offensively, you've got pieces. You got Gurley, you've got Ryan, and you have Jones. But the two of those last two are, above 30. One's 31, the other's 35. So I look at this roster as like a Porsche. It is very delicate. It is a nice roster. You just have to know exactly how to use it, or else you're going to kill yourself. And so this is definitely one of those rosters where it's going to go off the rails if you try to drive this thing wrong. You can cost yourself a lot of money in the long run by driving this sucker wrong, because it's a lot in repairs. So we'll see how Guac does. I think immediate terms, I know we like to talk about that. In terms of immediate moves, what I would do. Oh, let's go look at free agency real quick. I did not think this through. Free agency is such a crapshoot right now. I mean, obviously, really, ideally, you want youth because you have those, the dumpster fire contracts coming up shortly. But as of right now, your best bet is probably going to be a cornerback. But Darius Geis, I love Darius Geis. I mean, to me, Geis should be, as it stands right now, Geis should be the number one pick in free agency. I think he's nasty. But because he's only 23 too. But other than that, I mean, I guess you could go probably corner for this Falcons roster, just because they do have some corners, but they could use an extra guy, somebody to kind of play the slot. Logan Ryan isn't terrible. He's slow as all get out, but he could play the slot pretty well. Get off of Pride's corner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know, right? Slow corners aren't terrible in this slot, I'm telling you.
Well, if we're comparing the Falcons to a Porsche, and Alex probably just got his driver's license, I think he's going to pop the clutch trying to get out of the driveway with this team.
Definitely, you're going to see the transmission just drop out onto the concrete. It's just going to. He'll have it in reverse going 45 down the highway. It'll be like accidentally shifted in reverse, and the whole thing just drops out of the car.
I think that's a pretty good coverage of the teams. Let's get into some predictions. So, first season out the gate, who do we think is going to take away this division? Where do we think each of these guys is going to end up at season's end here in about a month, probably from now?
Good question. I think Pride hit it on the head. Brian is going to be one of the better users stick skills wise. But then Prince is going to catch him probably too. So I think Prince right off the bat, Prince and Brian
J-Mo.
probably make wild card.
J-Mo.
You're saying J-Mo right off the gate?
I think so, but I was just reminding about who a potential, who a candidate was too.
Yeah,
I personally like J-Mo out the gate. I think his team is the most set up to win right away out of all the teams in this division.
I do too.
I think that he's going to be able to get double-digit wins. I think Brian is going to struggle unless he makes some really good moves right off the bat that kind of suit his play, and that's mainly looking at Bridgewater.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's going to have the same success that he's used to with Bridgewater. So depending on what he does in the first several weeks, that will determine how his season goes. But for me, I'm taking J-Mo right out the gate for season 1 to take the NFC South.
See, that's a bold prediction.
Because of that roster.
I don't
what
like
do you think,
the
Biz?
Buck.
I'm gonna run with Prince. I think he has the
There you
best
go.
roster.
Yep.
I would not be shocked if J-Mo won this division.
Nah.
I think J-Mo I think he's a good gamer. He absolutely figured out how to use big-bodied receivers. And so having Mike Evans, I think that leans right into his wheelhouse. But I like the way that Saints roster is built. I think it's the best in that division. And while Brian is good, he's from what I've experienced or seen, he's probably the better gamer of the three. I just don't think his roster's ready yet. And while I have everybody's attention, let me take a moment to say this. Guac, I need you to listen clearly, okay? Listen real clearly. I need you to call a consulting service and get them working on your roster immediately.
For real.
Before it explodes. So, all right, back to our originally scheduled program. Ace, how do you feel about it?
Well,
If that consultant's name is Kevin, then you better hang up the phone.
Yeah, it's over.
Yes, I meant to say that. Do not call Bracky. Don't do it. Don't do it.
GG's. Oh, man. I think it's criminal. I just want to say, because I'm going to get this off my chest, it is criminal that you guys are picking J-Mo with the Buccaneers roster that isn't even as good as Prince's roster over Prince. Prince is a hands-down better user. I have swept J-Mo in our entire cycle series. 14 full seasons of playing Madden 20. He did not beat me once. I'm garbage. If he can't beat me, he's never beating Prince. Prince is a better user than me. He's, kind of never in chat, but, aside from that, he's way better.
Well, here's the alternative to that, Regan. I have a winning record against Prince. In fact, I think I've only lost to him once. I think I'm like 3-1 or 4-1 against Prince. And I have maybe one win against J-Mo, maybe two. But
how many of those games did he have a God squad? His team has been great. We're talking out of the gate. I think maybe long term, I think J-Mo can build that team into something better than what Prince has in New Orleans. But no, not first year. First year, this roster is nowhere near what he's dealt with the Colts. I don't think he has any precedent. He's too freaking drunk. He's like the classier Michael Chadwick of the XCFL. The stick skills are relatively the same, but he's definitely way classier. I got to give you that, James. But drinking ability, definitely probably up there. He's a blast of him. Like he is a much classier. Put that on a billboard next time I play the Buccaneers with Seattle. I'm gonna say that the coach J-Mo is a classier Michael Chadwick.
Wow. How about Super Bowls?
Typically, those two don't go together.
We got our favorite question that we're throwing around in each of these shows. Do any of these guys make the Super Bowl? Do any of them win it?
Absolutely.
Which one?
If Prince sticks around, I think Prince could get to the Super Bowl year one. I genuinely think this roster and this user, I think it's a match made in heaven. I think he picked this team, and it kind of fell to him through some circumstances, but he got it. And I think that this team is nasty. Brian isn't ready, but long term. So Prince makes it year one. Brian probably makes it two to three. I'd say 3 times at least over the course of the cycle, maybe even 5. Brian has proven he's a very, very deadly user. If it's not him, it's going to be Jack. But Brian is at least 3 times this cycle is going to be in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Interesting.
Now, winning, not a single win is going to come from this division. I will call that, though.
This conference?
Yeah, well, Brian's like 1-7 in Super Bowls? Like, he gets to 1 million Super Bowls, uses up a spot to be there, and then just blows it. That is classic Brian.
What do you think, Pride?
I think we'll see some Super Bowl appearances, specifically from I want to say Prince too, as long as he sticks around, of course. I just don't see any wins coming from this, and as the mature route I'll take is I can see Brian also making a Super Bowl, but I don't know if he's probably think I'm out to get him and jinxing him, and that victory card's coming out now.
I think you've been kind to him. I think you covered his team excellent. How about you, Biz? What do you think?
I believe that one of them will get to a Super Bowl, and if I had to put a percent opportunity or percentage chance on them winning the Super Bowl, I would say I give them 10% shot at winning a Super Bowl. I believe that there's a powerhouse user in the AFC that is going to be in a couple of Super Bowls, that the NFC matches up well with the NFC South, a few of those gamers. I'm not going to throw any names out. We'll say that maybe for when we get to the AFC West conversation, but I definitely think that there's matchups where if they met in the Super Bowl, I would give the advantage to one or two of these NFC South opponents.
Interesting. I'll throw it out there. I think Brian wins one. He's proven that he's got what it takes. He's got there a lot. As long as he can figure out his quarterback situation, I think the rest of it will fall into place, and I think he will get there and win one. Like I said, I'm a big J-Mo fan. I really hope that he can get there too. I think he's better than what Regan's letting on. I think maybe Regan's remembering him from 2 or 3 cycles ago. But, the proof will be in the pudding, as they say. So we'll see if J-Mo could do it. Prince, I'm not convinced on Prince. I think we've seen him. He is a good user. He's a good user, but I don't think that he can get through the gauntlet of the playoffs to a Super Bowl. I just don't see that happening.
God, no respect. Prince, I'm sorry. They don't respect your talent here.
Just calling it how I see it, Regan. Just calling it how I see it.
Hey, that's the only way you can, man. That's I respect that for sure. So I just completely and utterly disagree with you with every fiber and cell of my being, if that is possible. So I just think pride. I think pride. To me, pride was. Pride was, I think he hit it on the head. Brian. I think, and good job, Pride. For real, you and Brian have one of the most storied rivalries in the XCFL. Some of the newer guys might not remember the olden days when, things were very, very passive aggressively and sometimes aggressively heated in main chat. But you guys, you were very respectful, and I think you covered it accurately, which is all, anybody can ask of you. So my question is, guys, this is a talented division, definitely the most talented of, with rosters and users that we've dealt with so far. Because I think J-Mo, Prince, and Brian are 3 pretty quality users. Aside from J-Mo, J-Mo's garbage, but realistically, J-Mo's not bad. So, what puts this team in the bottom half for you guys? I'll ask you, Ace. Ace, I know you're an outspoken guy. Like, what puts this team? What would this team need to put it over the top into the top half? Is it more of a disrespect to them, or is it just giving respect to that top tier of teams?
No, I think the middle tier teams, it gets pretty muddy, and you can move this team up to the 3rd best or the 4th that we're doing now. These divisions between 3 and 5, 3 and 6. They're all about the same to me. So interchange them however you want. It's not disrespect. It's just this. We really wanted to cover Brian's division as what it was, so we put him next on the list. That's really what it was.
That's fair.
He was the one that bitched. He bitched in chat about it, so we're just giving him what he wants.
There you go. But yet, he hasn't listened to one show yet, so there it is. He probably won't listen to this one either.
He probably won't. If we didn't tell him, if we don't tag him and say specifically an exact time stamp of when Pride starts talking about him, he probably wouldn't listen. Let's be honest.
Ryan, if you hear this right now, DM me and I'll Venmo you $10.
Hey, $10 more
When you hear
will
this,
open by the Panthers in Madden 22.
the expiration on that is you have to listen by, let me see what is today. You have to listen by this time Thursday. So that's midnight on Thursday night.
Wait. Is this Eastern time or Hawaii time?
Eastern time.
All right.
Midnight
That's
Eastern
fair.
time.
I think that's a fair.
You DM me.
Midnight Eastern time on Thursday could be midnight of like 12:01 a.m. Friday or
11:59 p.m. on Thursday.
Perfect. There we go.
And no one bail him out. No one go tell Brian. DM Ace to get $10.
Nobody wants Brian. Yeah. Nobody wants Brian to have $10 more. Trust me, because that's just $10 more, 10 more points that you have to earn in Madden 22 to get your team. So
there you go. Well, I think that about does it for our show today, guys. Why don't you wrap it up, Regan?
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is the NFC West. We like shooting the shit and having a good time together. If you like what we have to say, Ace said this great on the first podcast. If you like what we have to say, we don't care. If you don't like what we have to say, we really don't care, because we want to hear what you think at this point. Tell us exactly what you think, and we will do our best to kind of hit you up, maybe shout you out on the next podcast. We're doing our best to just bring some pretty hot content with some fire takes. Some of us are, a little colder than others, like these guys saying J-Mo's good. That blows my mind. But, from Big Man Busy, A-Game Ace, and Petty Pride.
There we go.
And Ratchet Ass Regan, we are signing out. Thank you so much for listening.
Appreciate it, guys.